Hi everyone, welcome back to Misinformation in Science and Society. Here to listen, not to judge. I'm your host Annie, and today with us we have Erin Steuter. All right, so welcome. Could you please introduce yourself a little bit and what you do?
My name is Erin Steuter. I'm a professor of sociology at Mount Allison University in Canada, and my research specialization is in the news media, and I've had a particular interest in fake news for several years now.
Yeah, so why did you choose this career initially?
I was interested in the mismatch between the news and the larger theoretical understanding of the world that one gets in university. And I wondered why people didn't learn more about how the world works from the media. And then I started off in journalism. I thought, okay, well, I'll be part of the solution. But I got to see some of the barriers and limitations in the ability for journalists to put forward full and diverse stories. And so went back into academia, and now I analyze the barriers to effective journalism.
Yeah. So, and what's your favorite part of doing what you do now?
I like explaining how the world works to people who are curious. A lot of people who are involved in social movements and community organizing are confused why their issues are not being better represented in the media, and they feel like if they could just get in touch with a journalist, that their story would come out, and then everybody would understand, and then change would happen. They find it confusing why the stories are often distorted or not fully developed, and so they'll approach me, and I'll do community sessions to help them understand how to navigate that world.
Yeah, yeah, that sounds great. So, why do you think that obviously you like work with like fake news and stuff? So, why do you think that truth and correct information are so important, and why do you think misinformation is such a big issue right now, or especially right
Well, in a democratic society, the sort of beauty of that system is that everybody gets to contribute if they're willing, and then they get to have a say, and that needs to be an informed say, and they need to see the different options, and they need to weigh in on them, and they need to articulate to their representatives, what kind of policies they would like to see pursued. So if they don't have that information, that's already problematic. But then if there's misinformation, either because there's some kind of confusion or one side hasn't been developed, but if there's active disinformation where someone's really trying to kind of pollute the information sort of ecosystem, and oftentimes they'll use a lot of fear tactics, and people will get all upset, and they'll think that something's being taken away, or that something is more threatening and dangerous as opposed to like increasing equality or social inclusion. Then all of a sudden they'll get all organized and they'll use their democratic power, but will be based on misinformation. So it can have pretty significant consequences for our society if people are misinformed about important policy debates.
now? So then how do people like in your field like try to like tackle or avoid misinformation in your own like work and yeah.
Well, there's a lot of emphasis on being evidence-based and being transparent about the process that you use to do your research, and the types of questions that you asked, and the ways in which you tried to make it a comfortable environment for people to be able to speak freely. So, for example, if you're speaking with disadvantaged groups who might have a low level of trust in the government or even a researcher, what steps have you taken to provide a safe space so that you will be able to hear actually what they think.
Mhm.
And being clear about that and documenting that and being open to suggestions from the community saying, well, actually, when you phrased it this way, you actually used a different type of language that probably silenced some people. And if you had phrased it in a more open way or a different way, you might have gotten different results. And then being open to that feedback and working with community partners to kind of create trust to generate the research, and then to put the research out in as widely as possible, including using knowledge translation techniques where you try to reach a much wider audience with your results than just other professors. And so trying to put things out in different languages, or in plain language, or in comics, or in videos, and just trying to get the word out as widely as possible. That's part of the process that we use. And then we look at other people's work to see if they've done that as well, so we can see that we can trust their information.
Yeah, that's a very interesting point. Like the like how different language, like different word choices can like affect um the things that you like hear from people. Then on the flip side, what can like regular people do in their lives to reduce or avoid misinformation in their own life and like the people around them and stuff?
Well, they can try to think about who benefits from particular viewpoints and who loses, and just kind of keep in their mind, is someone trying to sell me on an idea, or have they given me enough information to jump to the conclusions that they want to jump to? If there's a topic that you don't know anything about, like say, for example, you're wondering about whether genetically modified food should be labeled, and you just really aren't really clear about whether that's something that's evidence-based or whether there's reason to be concerned, and so you don't really know where to go, you might think about another topic that you feel like you do know something more clearly about. So maybe something like, say, COVID vaccinations or something like that. And you're like, who gave me the most reliable information about something that I feel confident about? Was it a particular media source? Was it a government organization? I wonder what that source has to say on something that I don't know anything about. So I'm going to go there. I'm going to go there first. And then I'm going to be open to what they say as my starting point. Sometimes the news media will have a backgrounder. So if say, for example, like a war breaks out somewhere and you don't even know who any of the parties are, you could sometimes type in to a website of a news organization and say backgrounder of Somalia or backgrounder of Ukraine. And oftentimes they'll list, okay, well, this happened and this happened. And then you're like, okay, I have a bit more of an idea now. So a diverse variety of news sources, going to back to the ones that have already earned your trust in the past,
Mm.
and being open to um, sort of measuring whether you think that they're pushing one view that you think that perhaps they haven't justified enough, and then going and looking for more information. That's it's not as easy as just, okay, just go here and you'll be fine. You have to kind of keep your critical thinking hat on.
Yeah. And you kind of like already mentioned this, but what do you think about like the invention of like technology and its impact on misinformation? Because obviously it's been a thing for like a long time, but yeah.
Yeah, that's been very concerning. Technology can spread misinformation really, really fast, um, and and it can sort of target it in a micro manner. So if the news media puts out false information, or if people put up posters on the street with false information, it's very public, and people can say, "Oh, what's that? What's that post? What was that headline that was so racist or offensive?" And then you can have a community conversation where people can bring in different viewpoints and say, wow, I can't believe they did that. But a lot of the messaging on social media is micro targeted. So you may well literally get the only version of that message, or a very small percentage of people who share your exact kind of social media profile will get a particular message. And oftentimes it will be targeted to provoke fear or anger or insecurity. And so it's very difficult to have kind of a community response if a community didn't get the message, if individual people got the message.
Mm,
And the same thing with politicians who are trying to gauge the interest of the public. And if all of a sudden they see a whole bunch of social media posts about a particular topic with a particular perspective, they're like, wow, my constituency is really in favor of this. But that could literally be a bot. It could be a bot from a particular ideological agenda, but it could be just a bot who wants to stir up trouble, someone who just wants to kind of stir up the debate and see what will happen. So it can be very difficult to pin down the source of the false information, and it spreads so fast it can't be put back in the box again.
hmm Yeah. Um, Sorry, going back to like the word choice thing, do you think you could give like a few like examples, specific examples? Because yeah, I thought that was like really interesting. I'm curious to
Well,
learn
there
more.
was some really good work that was done around the issue of um, so the difference between, say, someone being an anti-vaxxer in response to the COVID vaccine versus someone being vaccine hesitant. So initially, they would refer to people as being anti-vaxxers, and they would ask people, "What's your anti-vax position?" And of course, that puts people right away in a really defensive position, and they start, looking for evidence to prove their argument. But if you, with the public health industry pivoted very quickly when they realized what a growing movement there was in terms of sort of doubling down on anti-vax arguments. So they started to move to call them vaccine hesitant. So then they would say, can you tell us about your hesitancy about vaccines? What questions do you have? Are there answers that we could get for you? And people would give completely different answers to a question about vaccine hesitancy. And they say, I'm hesitant for these reasons. And then they say, well, would this information make you feel differently about that? And oftentimes they would find that people were much more open to receiving new information if you approach them from the perspective that they were still undecided and they had legitimate concerns that they wanted to have validated, as opposed to that they had already kind of joined a political movement that was anti-vax, which was in fact not the case for the majority of people who just didn't know what to make of this like urgent vaccine that came on the agenda. So that would be I think they did a good job. I think the public health industries did a good job as they shifted and pivoted, and now I see it much more common that they use the term vaccine hesitant.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's very interesting. So, those were all my questions about misinformation. So, is there anything else you'd like to add before, like, two like just fun questions for like closing?
Well, the news media is going through a bit of a crisis right now in terms of funding. It has started as an advertising-based funding model, so that we're used to getting our news pretty much free in exchange for the advertisers, sort of having our attention by having ads posted around the news. But it became a lot less expensive for most corporations to advertise directly through Facebook or through different other social media. They could reach so many more people for so much less money that they pulled their ads out of the news media, and that meant this huge loss of revenues for the news media, and they couldn't really pay the journalists to do the investigative reporting anymore. And so there's been a big decline in the like actual amount of news that's being gathered and being done by professionals and being vetted by legal departments and fact checked. And so that's kind of a situation that we're in now. And so it's good to think about like where is my news coming from? What is the original source of it? If I can't find that out, maybe I don't want to trust that. Maybe I want to start off my day by going to like a legitimate news outlet and finding out what their take is, and then going and seeing what they have, and possibly even subscribing and paying for a site that I do value the quality of their news, and I find that they are educating me and helping me, because we are in a situation where a lot of news now is being generated by people with agendas that is not professional journalism. So that's a pretty big issue for people to be aware of and keep track of.
Yeah. Um, so yeah, I just have two more like just fun questions. First one is what inspires you like in life? What are some of your inspirations? Whether that's like a person, idea, book, anything.
Well, I'm a big fan of just sort of the critical media literacy tradition. It's quite big in Canada and has been for a long time, and now it's becoming big globally because of fake news. But I do workshops with schools, like middle school kids, and we like make fake ads for products and use the techniques to try to like trick people into saying that this product is better than this product. And
Mhm.
then sometimes we deconstruct ads, like I'll bring in some toys and we'll look at how they've been marketed in a really gendered manner, like to boys or girls, colored blue and pink and with different kinds of images. And then we'll deconstruct them and recreate them to be more like gender neutral and more open for everybody to play. So kind of learning the tricks of manipulation, and then playing with them and then using them to like empower you. I like doing that. I like doing that with children, and I like doing that with young adults. And people people like to feel smart and clever and see like how the machinery of persuasion works. And I like helping them do that. And I enjoyed learning that myself from the media literacy scholars. And I feel like people are really open to it now, especially with fake news, because people don't want to be fooled. So I've had more invitations from schools to do workshops, things about media literacy. So that usually, if I hear something and I'm like, oh, those people are being tricked, that always I'm like, oh, I got to find a way to expose that. Or if I see someone doing a really great way to show and teach people, then that always excites me.
Yeah. And do you have any advice for people, especially teens, just about anything?
Yeah, I would say that even though a lot of the professions are in crisis right now and people are concerned like, oh, there's a lot of people getting laid off and you don't want to go into that profession, people who have passion always do succeed in whatever profession they want. So I would try to just block that out. Every profession is going to be challenging. So if you like love it, then you should pursue it and you should like double down on the part that you like and not worry about the part that will make the most money or be the most likely to get you a good job because your passion will make it work out well. And then you will be able to create a space for yourself to do the work that you want to do. So it's pretty tough to go to work every day if for something that you don't love. Like it really should be like, what is it that I love, what I love doing, and find a way, find the work that is like that. Um, we don't know all the different jobs that are out there, so you kind of have to be like, I want this job that I'm going to do all these things, and then you might find out that that really is a job, or maybe you'll just create that new job for yourself and other people.
Hmm. Yeah, all right. So thank you for that's all I have. Thank you for your time and for your insights. It was really nice talking to you.
Great, you're welcome.
All right.
Bye.
Bye. Take care.